Hey, everybody. This is your host, Nevin Gusak of the show New Ideas. Just wanted to go over a couple of things. First of all, we had a name change for the show from the Politically Homeless podcast to New Ideas. That was a suggestion, actually, of one of our guests, Dr. Pat Chode, who I just had an interview this morning with, which I'll be uploading soon. So him and I were talking and brainstorming, and one of the things he mentioned, but when I was talking about the name of the show, said you might want to consider just naming it something simple like New Ideas. What he suggested, I said, "Wow, that sounds nice, short and sweet, and it accurately reflects." Um, Really the substance of this show, where I'm talking about, I would argue, new ideas as compared to what passes as the mainstream when it comes to foreign policy, as well as also economic policy too as well. So show's going well. Thank you to all my subscribers who are listening to my recorded interviews, to the few live streams I have. Thank you so much to the new subscribers as well. Thank you very much. And continuing to look for new guests, new opportunities of like-minded people, as well as some people where I have some differing views with. I'm hoping to get Tim Starr, who is a writer researcher. He is a libertarian, but him and I are aligned on a number of foreign policy questions and national security issues. So I hope to take a deep dive into economics, especially when I'm done with certain essays. He does subscribe to my Substack page. I had a great conversation with Rob Noerr. Rob Noerr is a streamer. He is based in Pennsylvania. He was a congressional candidate as a Republican. He was a Ron Paul supporter. I would call him pro-Trump with reservations, to be honest with you. I've listened to him. I served on a debate panel with him. He is extremely knowledgeable. Sorry, Rob, I don't agree with you. You say you're not as well read, whatever. You are, particularly in certain subjects, whether I agree or not. You are very well read. You're an excellent debater. You definitely hold your own. At first, he was a good debate panelist. There were some things we agreed with, disagreed with. It was on globalism and nationalism. So I wanted to have a follow-up conversation because I felt there were some unturned stones in the discussion. There are certain people that he's debated that I'm friendly with, that I've appeared on different panels. We'll get to that in a moment. Rob is a solid guy. Had a pre-conversation before the show. He's a dad. I believe he has one or two children. I follow his show, particularly his solo shots and his call-ins. He's obviously an involved and loving father. That really resonates very well with me. I have a daughter, as many of you know. She's 19 years old. She's really one of the most important people in my life. There's no question about that. So him and I were talking about libertarianism, conservatism, populism. We were talking about Trump. We were talking about national security policy. We were talking about the so-called culture wars and things of that nature. So it was really a far-reaching conversation, very enjoyable. He is a stalwart when it comes to his principles. He's very stalwart. He seems to really despise inconsistencies in politics, which I can appreciate. So it was a great conversation. For those of you who are interested in subscribing to Rob Noerr shows, it's called Normal in America with Rob Noerr. That's Noerr is spelled Noerr. So he's a good guy. His area of expertise are political corruption, the weaponization of the federal government, particularly under Democrats, against its opponents. He, again, he's an expert debater. He could definitely hold his own on foreign policy and economics. So again, solid guy, whether you agree with him or not. It's a good channel to like, to follow, to monitor, and of course to comment or call, but make sure obviously Like, I urge my listeners to be respectful and informative. Because remember, if you want to change a person's view, you win flies with honey rather than vinegar. And Rob is kind enough he wants to have me back in a couple of months so we can, take a deep dive into Trump's policies. When it comes to the streamer drama, I know some of the streamers, not many. Look, this show is more into policy. It's more into ideas. It's more into history and really having kind of these deep conversations, if you will. So I try to align myself with people who I at least have some agreement with on varying issues, not everything necessarily. So I've reached out to Connor of Counterpoints. Connor is a friend of mine. I've met Connor. I spent several hours at his home, met his wife, met his kids, even one or two of his friends. He's a good guy. It does not strike me as anybody with any red flags. He has his principles. He is an old school centrist, so he does not neatly fit into any political tribe solidly, because there's shit he'll call out with the left wing of the Democratic Party, but also the MAGA Republican wing of the party. So you can't neatly pigeonhole him in one camp, irrespective of he takes money from Progressive Victory. I have not discussed that with him. I've streamed with him, I think, 2 times for a couple hours. I served on 2 or 3 panels where he was present. Is it something that I would do? Probably not, because I'm more politically homeless. I really was not enamored with Kamala Harris and not with Trump. Were there certain things I agree with the Biden administration, the Trump administration? Yes. And were there things I disagreed with? Of course. But that's his decision. That doesn't mean necessarily he's changed his ideology. He always was anti-Trump. My first interview with him was a discussion of why I became disillusioned with many aspects of Trump's first term, as well as with conservatism or Reaganomics as a whole. So, Connor, again, I did not sense that he was inauthentic. He was an authentic guy. He's down to earth. I have no issues with him whatsoever. Rob, again, good guy. I mean, I know he comes across maybe a certain way that might turn people off or upset people in different debates. But I wanted to listen to him more closely. And when he does the call-ins, when he does his monologue shows and other interviews, he actually is really solid, really likable. He has a gift to break shit down in a way that people can understand. And that is a skill. That is one of his many skills. And I like Rob. I think Rob, like Connor, are both good men, good family men. They are articulate, they are knowledgeable, and they have a unique skill of distilling bullshit and intellectual stuff that I like to go about and write about, blah, 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 blah. They can distill that into ways where people can understand that. So I like Rob. I like Connor of Counterpoints. I definitely suggest everybody in my audience, as well as my subscribers, to subscribe to them. They are also, if you're a streamer yourself or a political commentator or author or analyst, they are pretty open to talking with people. I've attempted to try to get in touch with some other streamers too. In some cases, I've had to cancel. One I like, Dylan Burns. I mean, Dylan Burns is more of a liberal internationalist. I'm not as much of a liberal internationalist. He definitely seems to take a strong stand against the CCP, against the Putin government and United Russia and its neo-Soviet structures. He's obviously a big fan and proponent of Ukrainian sovereignty. So I really appreciate that with Dylan. I served on a panel with him. I mean, seemed friendly enough. Hopefully he sometime we'll connect. I tried to reach him, and just he says he's just been busy, and I haven't heard much back. So I'm just, I'll leave that alone. But definitely, I support his work. Brianna Wu, I really applaud Brianna, and I did on the show with Rob, primarily because she has taken a strong stand against the extreme left within the Democratic Party. She has proven herself a staunch opponent of Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. She has made statements very much against communism, but without going into full ANCAP or Reaganomics. I've tried to reach out to her on Twitter too. She indicated that she would be interested in a show publicly on Twitter. I DM'd her, but to be honest, I have not heard back. I'm not sure if again she's busy. I know she's busy with legislative affairs and fighting for the LGBTQ, particularly transgender community. I definitely appreciate her story where she was treated like absolute dirt by her natural family and adopted family. And, she definitely has made a career for herself, and I appreciate that and respect that. I'd be willing to connect with her. I've tried, but not much success. Again, I'm not sure if she's busy. She does follow me on Twitter or X, that I appreciate. Um, she has made the time for other streamers that have a lot bigger of a reach than I do. I don't know, maybe she might be mad at me for crapping all over Richard Hanania on X. Richard Hanania or Hanania is a commentator. He is a sort of, he represents a hybrid of cultural cosmopolitanism, which I don't necessarily have an issue with a hardcore libertarianism that often can be condescending and arrogant. Witness his responses to posts regarding the whole H-1B visa controversy that has happened recently. He hates labor. He hates rural and urban industrial zone citizens here in the United States. And I've been very harsh. I've called him out. Now, there are certain things in general on certain general issues. He's right. I've tried to reach out to Drew Pavlo too. He has followed me in return on X, which I do appreciate. But, something I think I have a lot in common with Brianna and Drew. And I really would like the opportunity to talk with them because there's a lot of alignment on issues that I do have. You know, Maybe she got in touch with Richard Anania. He has a wider view. It benefits her. Say that as you will. But the guy is really, I don't know him in person, but I will tell you his comments. Really, he comes across as a really shitty human being. The way he talks about people that are truly suffering with professionals as well as also the non-professional blue collar people as well as the poorer class of workers. So I really don't like him. I think his class resentment or class or economic bigotry towards the poor, working class, and middle class drives people away from supporting capitalism and free government and towards supporting neo-fascism and communism. And Hanania is doing the radical anti-capitalists a bigger favor. So I've really shit on him publicly on X. Maybe Brianna doesn't appreciate that. I don't know. But I stand behind her. I stand behind her, many of her positions on foreign policy, her effort to chart a more radical centrist course in the Democratic Party. So I applaud and support her. Regarding the whole Destiny drama, I don't know Destiny, even though he lives in my backyard here down in South Florida. So I really can't comment. I mean, certain positions that Destiny have are ones I don't agree with. Others, I do. I think his position when he was debating the neo-Nazi National Socialist Eric Streicher, Joseph Jordan, and when Destiny was actually defending lobbying and stock buybacks, or at least soft pedaling lobbying and defending stock buybacks, and Eric Streicher, the Nazi, actually sounded like he made more sense. That's sad. Is that the best that liberalism can do? Is have a guy who is defending some of the worst holdovers or policies of Reagan and the quote unquote conservative Supreme Court? That's we liberalism and the Democratic Party needs to do better than that. They need to go hard against stock buybacks and hard against the excesses of lobbying. So that's was kind of unfortunate. But I disagree with his positions. He's a big free trade guy. Free trade has devastated America's not only industrial base, technical base, innovation base in certain ways, but also our national security posture. And Destiny sounds like he's just regurgitating points from economics 101 and 102 textbooks. Look, I took those classes. Professor Charles registered at FAU. It was counterintuitive to me then, and I was back then a free market libertarian, and it certainly is counterintuitive to me today based on economic history. So, but with regards to Destiny and the nudes and stuff like that, I don't know. I'm not in that circle. It's not how I live my life. So I really can't comment. I haven't studied the case fully, and I have not, really interacted with him. He didn't interact with me at all on a panel that I did on the Heated Hippie panel that was facilitated by Connor of Counterpoints. So I really never talked with him, so I can't comment on him personally. I've dealt with Econoboy. He was kind enough to read one of my works on Substack, and that was really nice of him. He let me the opportunity. He let me have the opportunity to go on his show to talk about radical civic nationalism. He's very, very smart. He knows his information, whether I agree with him or disagree with him. There were a number of points him and I had agreement with. I appreciated how Econoboy really skillfully debated Marxist-Leninists and fascists. So he definitely is more of a center-left guy. I would not term him far left on economics, at least. He's more center-left. Far left, of course, would be Marxist-Leninist, and he is a staunch opponent of that ideology. So, so I'm looking to work with other streamers, but again, I'm not going to get into all the personal drama. I'm going to get into policy. Look, if Destiny wanted to talk with me, I'd talk with him too. There are things him and I agree with, of course, on different issues. I mean, he definitely, again, takes a strong stand against China and Russia, although I think on the trade question, I suspect there might be some inconsistency. But I'd be happy to have a conversation with him, and we can agree and disagree, and it can be pleasant. Look, he is very bright. He's very smart. That is something that we do know. He's a very able debater. He's sort of a left of centrist version of Ben Shapiro, as I said on Rob Noerr's show. He talks very, very fast, and he comes out with his logic, his reasoning, and his facts, and he speaks a mile a minute in that way. So in that way, he's like Ben Shapiro. But I would not term him a full leftist. Culturally, he is definitely well on the left. On economics, he's about half social democratic and half libertarian capitalism. It just depends on the issue. And foreign policy, he is a liberal internationalist, but he does have a realistic understanding, it seems, and a better understanding of the threats of Russia and China. But I'd be curious to see what more of his positions would be on countering Russia and China. So that's the question. But yeah, I mean, any of you in the audience, I see 2 or 3 people listening. I really appreciate that. If you have any questions, just feel free to drop any questions for me. But if you in the audience or amongst the subscribers know other streamers that you think that I would be a good match with, or be a good conversation for the audience, for the consumers, let me know. Hook me up. Definitely hook me up. Well, any questions, just feel free to pop them. I'll stay on for another minute or so, and then I got a jet. Got my ginger, my boiled ginger root tea that I make fresh. It's freshly squeezed lime with the lime juice squeezed in here, so I'm enjoying that. Hey, drop something in the chat. I know I was also going to talk about Trump. My approach to Trump is very simple. His administration does something correct, cool. If he does some dog shit political or economic or foreign policy view, I'm going to call him out. And I have called him out on shows and also praised him when warranted. So again, there are certain things first of all, with Biden, I thought Biden would not do anything with Ukraine. Now, he's slow walking aid, arguably, to Ukraine while he was president, but I didn't think he would send anything because his record on national defense issues was awful while he was in the Senate. I didn't think he would do any sanctions against China. I thought he would roll back the Trump era tariffs and sanctions. And now he's increased it, granted, selectively. So in that way, it was a pleasant surprise. I agree with the CHIPS Act to some degree. I agree with Lena Khan when she was at the FTC in putting a halt on the mergers and acquisitions in large corporations. But there are other things where I disagreed with him on, which obviously will be kind of a long laundry list, but there are plenty that I didn't agree with. I didn't think he went far enough on some of the economic policies that I would have liked to see. I think his getting out of Afghanistan was absolutely done in haste, where it left all this military equipment to the Taliban, which then some of that has been leaked to various Islamic rebels in the region, including those in Kashmir and the disputed sections of India and Pakistan. And I think Trump was absolutely correct in basically saying that General Milley was a fucking idiot for saying that it would be less expensive just to leave that there. That's crazy. You're giving the Taliban an arsenal, and now they're using some of that arsenal to export Islamic and separatist revolution in the region. So that contributes to regional instability. So with Trump, look, some of his appointments and nominees I agree with. I like the Secretary of Labor. For a Republican is a step in the right direction. You have Peter Navarro, who's a senior counselor on trade and manufacturing. Scott Bessent at least has some good ideas on trade. I don't agree with him on other issues, though, given his questioning in the Senate. You look at General Kellogg. You also have Ratcliffe at the CIA, and others. So these are some good people in the right direction. He's appointed other people like Kevin Hassett at the head of the Council of Economic Advisors, who's a disaster. Of course, he's a staunch Reaganomics guy. So everyone in the show knows I don't agree with Reaganomics as it was actually executed in the 1980s and even afterwards. So with Trump, obviously his way of communicating his issues with Panama, with letting in China into the Panama Canal Zone, even though he has the right idea, it comes out as the sort of ugly American stereotype, and I don't want China and Russia and their Latin American allies to be handed a propaganda victory. We have to be tough, but we also have to be very artful with our diplomacy and think long term. We have to think the long term and short term effects of what we say, particularly in the public arena. We always want to be able to blunt the propaganda advantages of China, Russia, and its allies. With Greenland, look, Greenland has strategic resources. I get that. But apparently, if the reports are true, Trump had a highly contentious conversation with the Prime Minister of Denmark, where apparently he came across as extremely aggressive and boorish. Again, not a very good look, especially when Europe has to be united with the United States against the Russia threat. So, we have to wait and see. But at the same time, the Russians have a very mixed view on Trump. You have some that are viewing Trump very ominously as a threat. Others feel that actually he could do a lot of damage to the United States through his various domestic policies. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. Trump deserves credit where credit is due. Trump understands the problems, at least on the surface. He recognizes the problem of deindustrialization and its national security imperatives. He understands the very helpful role that tariffs played in building up American industry. So there are positives and negatives with both Biden and Trump, and we have to analyze these things according to the merits of the policies and whether they worked historically in the United States or not. So that's pretty much it for my live stream. Thank you for the couple of people who are listening, and thank you for my subscribers who are also listening after I drop this video for publication. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.